Do you love how obsessed we are with trade, mate? Like, it's just become...
It's huge, hasn't it? I could nearly write a book just on trade week for the past 25 years. The draft that helped set the business up was which we dubbed the Superdraft. So I was lucky enough to sign Luke Hodge at pick 1, Luke Ball at 2, Judd at 3, Pollack at 4, Bartel at 8. I think Charlie's going to have a great year, but if I was Carlton, I would have looked strongly at moving Charlie on too. And to talk about the rooms, the Swans room and the Carlton rooms, I felt like it was like 500 metres apart. I'm like, we're not going to get this done. Can we just meet in the? Can we come and meet? Sometimes with trades, they've got to be win-wins, and I think this is a win-win.
Now, the man sitting in the chair today, D, manages some of the biggest stars in the AFL, some of the highest paid players, some of the biggest names. The Jerry Maguire, people like to call him, of the AFL. Mr. Paul Connors, welcome to the dos&d show.
It's a very good round of applause. Thanks for
the live audience.
Studio audience today.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I saw in the news this week, you came out and spoke about, we jumped straight into Tassie, mate, because you were asked about Big Nick Daicos, and it would be strange not to listen to, I guess, what they might have to offer. $5 million sign-on bonuses are being talked about, which is just insane, mate.
Oh, well, we went, the agents, there was the funny story, 30 agents and media got taken down to Tassie, and we all went down the plane. I was squashed in little out the back, actually, in the middle seat next to Big John Meeson. It was a great little trip. And on the way back, I actually stayed because my Michael Thorne, who's down on a secondment from the AFL to Tassie, and his wife, Georgie, actually works with us. But I stayed to have lunch with them and go see their house. Every agent went back and they came into Melbourne, the plane coming in, about to land, went back to Tassie because the weather was so horrendous the other week in Melbourne. So I was getting all these texts, you lucky bastard, and all this. So great trip. They did it well. We talking about golf because we've got the golf clearance sponsors. We love them. We played golf there, and there were about 5 cameras following us and I was hitting off with Peter Lenton, another agent, Michael Thorne and Brendan Gale, and they were following Brendan. And I would have had 13 shots on the first hole. I was like mortified. Improved after that. But yeah, it was good. It was a good trip.
So, it's a unique situation with Tassie coming into the comp.
Yep.
I mean, and I'd be interested to hear back in the days of Gold Coast and GWS and not so recent times, but with this unique proposition coming up, what's it like internally between your 4 walls with, potentially this whole new opportunity for players?
I think we're maybe more mature now. Back in the day, even Gold Coast and then the Giants I have a great recollection of because we had Callum Ward and Gubby Allen, who's now at St Kilda, one of the great operators over a long period of time. I don't think he even knew who Callum Ward was, but he kept up in the ante.
Yeah.
And I remember where it's, okay, I'll give you another 100,000. And he's been one of the great investments in he's become a Giants legend, Callum Ward. And as a whole, our company have been great supporters, I think, of the startups of Gold Coast and the Giants. And I see nothing different with Tassie. I feel like Tassie's going to be really well organised and a great destination for anyone and everyone.
Besides the cash, how do you see them attracting talent? We were talking about this the other day. I mean, Tassie's a footy state. We all know that.
Yeah.
But
that's the key.
Is that the key?
Yeah, that's the key. That I think for their VFL first game coming up, they're going to get 12,000 people, capacity crowd. The whole state's behind them on a different scale. You've seen what's happened with the Jack Jumpers. I think it's really exciting. We got taken behind the walls to see their training facility. That's going to be amazing. The ground, we actually stood where the centre square is of the new stadium. It's going to be pretty cool too.
How much is that?
The
How
roof.
much are they putting into that?
Oh, I can't even, millions.
Yeah.
But I think, and I've been a supporter of this for Tassie for them to get, and there's always going to be the yeses and nos. It's like there's still people complaining about the Grand Prix. I think it's a legacy piece for Tassie and for people just to have an amazing stadium for long after both you and I are gone.
So when you talk, money obviously talks too, but like when Giants came into the league and after everything that happened with Gold Coast, at the time, was Giants a hard sell to players?
Well, it was in a way because at that stage when we were selling, we thought they were going to be based out at Rudy Hill, RSL, really. And, lo and behold, they moved to Olympic Park, and then a lot of them could live in the east as well. Yeah. So that, a lot went to Balmain Way to live. When they started, they had it was Breakfast Point, and all of them stayed there. It was fantastic. They had a great setup for the Toby Greens of the world who came in as 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds. And then it all just grew and matured and they moved everywhere. But a lot of them went, beachside.
Mm. How do you see, like, you look at how, say, Gold Coast recruited, they went and got those mature bodies. The Campbell Browns, the Jarrett Brennans, the Josh Frasers, there was plenty of them. And then obviously the bigger names.
Well, I think like the Giants took it to a better level.
Yeah.
And they had coaches and players. So Luke Power, I think what happened was the Giants learned from Gold Coast, and Gold Coast did it tough. They had portables as their, in the startup years. And it was those 17-year-olds. Like the Giants were able to secure Dylan Shiel, Jeremy Cameron as these draft picks. And I think the players, Tassie's just named 22 players that they're interested in for this year. Some really good players there too.
Few in your book?
Yeah, there are.
Yeah,
there are. But there's a father-son there. There's an academy boy. So that'll all play out over the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Later on, we're going to cover kind of what the year looks like for you, all the way up from the start of the season through when you're trying to find new talent also, and then all the way to trade time. Yeah. But before we kind of get there, we're on the brink of the AFL season. Obviously, from the time we're recording this, it's first game tomorrow with a couple of your boys, Jagger and Charlie Curnow.
Yep.
But we were interested to talk a little bit about the Charlie Curnow trade. Right off the top. So talk to us about that, because that seemed to go through last minute. How did that come about? And it took a lot of people by surprise.
We were just talking about Robbie D'Orazio off air and how he used to work for Craig Hutchison. So journalism background. So Robbie was the lead agent there, had many, and him and Charlie are just super close. And Charlie just expressed, and I think Charlie's going to have a great year, but if I was Carlton, I would have looked strongly at moving Charlie on too. And I think sometimes with trades, they've got to be win-wins, and I think this is a win-win. If you look at what went out the door of Carlton, then what came in, yes, they would have liked to have kept Tom de Koning, but that didn't happen. But just in terms of getting Will Hayward, Ollie Florent, Ben Ainsworth in the door, I think their forward line changes dramatically. So we'll see how that pans out this year. The trade, I thought it was going swimmingly, and it's just things that happen behind. They're probably too raw still to talk about, but I was playing one out, one back with Robbie. I was just Robbie's assistant for the day or for the week leading in, and it just became big. So one thing we did do was separate Ollie Florent from Hayward and Charlie. So Charlie, and had Hayward connected to that, whereas Ollie Florent had to go, and we were able to do that separately, and we're really pleased with that, even though Ollie Florent was desperate for Hayward to come, and Hayward was happy that Florent was at Carlton. I think the extra ability to trade picks, and that means I think everyone's become a bit inflated. So there was now the ability, even with Zach Merritt, to have 3 future first, your current first round, future first, and a future first. It's a bit of a mouthful, but that extra trading, I thought, put more pressure, and everyone became inflated. Charlie Curnow felt like he was 25 years of age. But he was contracted, and what it showed you was that I felt the clubs fought back this year in the trade period.
How does it work with those guys, like the ones that get caught up? So you mentioned Ollie Florent and Will Hayward. How quick in a piece does it typically happen when a player? Because we've seen trades in the past that a player's name gets thrown out, and we haven't even talked about in the whole trade period. How quickly are those decisions made by that player to now they get thrown into the mix?
We'll have Ollie Florent as a bit separate because he was like a solo. He should have left, and he did leave. Yep. He had lots of conversations with Dean Cox and the club about a fresh start. Will Hayward, a bit like Rowbottom, Rowbottom was travelling with one of our boys, Nick Blakey, and he just said, I know his name was floated, he just said, go away, which is your right as a contracted player. So just like the clubs hold some aces, if you're contracted, you don't have to go. So clubs have a way of making you think that you have to go, and that was like Ollie Florin. He had 4 or 5 years to go.
Yep.
At Sydney, but just, our advice was you should leave.
Yeah.
They don't love you anymore and you should leave. Whereas Rowbottom was just strong, and maybe they did have some salary cap issues that they were working through as well. I'm not totally privy to that, but felt like that a little. So Hayward was a bit late. He's overseas.
Yep.
He's not preparing for it. I think now if you said to Will, he'd say he's really excited about what lies ahead. His fiance's from Melbourne. Mm-hmm. He's settled in South Yarra. I think they're both going to be a breath of fresh air for Carlton, just what Carlton are needed. So if you're Carlton supporters, you'd be pretty excited.
When you think about, say, the control clubs might have of what players can say, this is the example, and I don't want to keep harping on about Charlie, but he did a pretty in-depth interview, might have been a month or two ago. I can't remember what paper it was for, but he came out and said, during one of the press conferences, say in the last kind of parts of the season, he said something along the lines of Carlton were almost telling him he had to say he was staying, even though in his head he knew he wanted to explore and he wanted to have conversations.
I didn't read the exact comments, but I in many ways, sometimes you just don't want the heat. And we're not mature enough as an industry just to even be saying, a year out that, this is what I'm doing. And the media, we've got so much media. It's going to be talked about all the time. So sometimes you just need to take the air out of it and just make a comment that I'm happy and I'm comfortable, and really you can deal with that at the end of the year. I know everyone will go, that's lying, but it's like, well, sometimes you don't have a choice.
Do you love how obsessed we are with trade, mate? Like, it's just become
huge.
I do laugh and go, what is it? Is it 2 weeks?
Yep. But it just feels longer.
But it feels like 2 months.
Well, let's talk about that because, we just mentioned Craig Hudson before. He's built, trade radio on the back of it in a partnership with the AFL. It's got bigger. So much so I didn't... And then we had the people, we were just talking also about... Stan Australia followed Robbie and Nick Geeshan and myself and the office for a couple of years.
The documentary.
Which was big in itself, and it's not something we would naturally do. Especially Robbie and I were just talking this morning. He's saying it's not something he naturally does, but he was good. And then just this year, the cameras in the rooms, and I felt it was the year. There was two things. Year that I thought the clubs fought back and hold more aces than people think, and they think, but Charlie Curnow just left. But it's like, no, if Carlton didn't want to trade him and they weren't going to for the 10 minutes to go, they didn't have to, and that's what happened with Merritt. But those cameras, I remember seeing somewhere a year ago, I walked into the AFL room, and everyone's got their club rooms, and out the front there's a big media pack, and it's really evolved over. I can remember Luke Ball when his trade was trying to get through, and I brought him up through an elevator behind the media and tried to convince Ross Lyon to trade Luke Ball, and that didn't work. We all got a bit angry. I could nearly write a book just on trade week for the past 25 years.
Mate, I think you should, mate.
You should.
Yeah. Well,
it'd be interesting.
Well, as you kind of say that, I would like you to get this up, Sammy. So we've got this is great footage, and we're going to play this on mute, and I want you. We're going to overlay this in. So for those that are actually listening, we're about to see. This is the Zach Merritt.
Zach Merritt's former manager, Tom Petrillo.
Yeah, about to walk in, and if you can kind of narrate for us, Paul, kind of what you think the conversations might be happening here. I'm sure you've seen the footage. Click play, Sammy. And we're about to see him enter the room. Here we go.
I've been there, done that.
So this looks quite...
Well, this is right at the end of the day.
And it looks robust.
Yeah, if they had have got me once, I hip and shouldered Jace McCartney. And then I managed Jace in the hallway.
So if you...
I think Tom's just begging...
What do you think he'd be saying? Like, along the lines of...
I don't know if he's saying, Eston, can you give more? Or...
Yeah.
He spent a lot of time in Hawthorn's room.
He just slammed his wallet on the table.
Yeah. It's really emotional game. I feel for Tom in this situation because I wasn't aware. Like the cameras, Like I felt like it was the first time I felt it was a little bit about Tom and a lot about Tom and a lot about Robbie. And it's a game of inches.
Yes.
It's so close. Do you know what I mean? On ours, Swans, and they talk about the rooms, the Swans room and the Carlton rooms, I felt like it was like 500 metres apart. And I'm like, we're not going to get this done. Can we, if I did anything, I just said, can we just meet can we come and meet?
Why does that not happen?
Well, they did at some stage, but then and there was a bit of, new, like there were new people from, like the Swans had a new list manager and a new head of footy and a new CEO and everything was new and a new coach to a degree. Not when I say new, they weren't there for the last 10 years. Whereas Graham Wright came into Carlton and then they had Chris Davies come in and Nick Austin. And they had the player that was contracted. So you've got all this, experience and contracted player at Carlton. So what we did, Robbie, we just at least got them. And I'm telling you, the clock's ticking and we're sweating. I've got Will Hayward ringing Robbie and I had to answer his call. And he's like, is it getting done? And we're like, mate, it's 4 minutes to go. To Swan's credit, they needed some points back. They were happy. They gave up the future first round, but they got some points back, which allowed them to get Harry Kyle and Max King. So the back of their mind, they're like, hey, we need points. We'll give that as long as we get some points back. So it was nervous. And you're just talking about the trade period. Those cameras now are like, wow, it's scary.
This episode of the dos&d show with Paul Connors is brought to you by CoinSpot.
Now, CoinSpot make crypto simple, and it's trusted by over 3 million people.
Head to CoinSpot for the easiest place to buy your Bitcoin and a world of other digital currencies.
Download the app today. Back to the episode with Paul Connors.
Well, I was going to, it's obviously overly simplified for us to sit here and ask the next question I'm about to ask you, but we talk about it for, like you said, months. The trade period goes for weeks. For a lot of the trades, it's pretty obvious where the player's going to end up. Why does it take till that last kind of 30 to 40 minutes before the dominoes start moving? Why does it take so long?
Because everyone just goes to... I'm a believer that, AFL's not going to give it up because it's just more time.
It's theatre,
and I actually feel like we need it for people to go and... like we had players overseas. Will Hayward's overseas. Ollie Florence overseas. He needed the time, Ollie Florence, to get his head around that was the right thing.
Yep.
CJ from the Hawks, he was late. Like we hadn't looked at Melbourne. Melbourne were interested in someone else. I knew that fell over. I'm like, CJ's a great fit here. He loves Hawthorn, but he's playing 7th and 8th back. He needs just to play.
Yep.
We could not be happier with that. And the length of the trade period helped that. Then you get a Charlie Curnow or a Zach Merritt. People are just going to their rooms for, and not talking for a week and, flexing or whatever you want to do.
Yep.
But, yeah.
Where do you sit on the Americana feeling of allowing or clubs being allowed to trade players without their consent or without their actual...
I'm a strong no.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to happen. Like, Damien Hardwick thinks it should happen, and we manage Damien and his daughter works for me, but that's not, we'll have some robust discussions. We're just not paid enough for that to happen, and it's just not going to happen. I can't see, I wouldn't like the Players Association to give that up as a CBA collective bargaining agreement. We'd have free agency after 4 years then. I don't like it, and I don't think it can happen.
Do you see a world where, like the NRL, some would argue do it pretty well, but players come out mid-year and say, I'm done. My contract's running. I'm going to a new club next year. Do you see a world where that could happen in the AFL?
Not yet, because we're not mature enough. But I do think, talk about Jace McCartney, who I hip-shouldered in the corridors.
That's a big boy to go after.
Yeah, I know. He said it was like a mosquito bite. He laughed at me. He'd make a chapter though, Jace. The Giants... they've got it really... Jace's got this... I don't know if it's because he's up in Sydney and he looks at the NRL or because he just understands that they were blessed with so many good draft picks that he is very... his heart rate doesn't go too high. And I say to some other list managers, go work for the Giants or the Suns and you'll find out what it's like because they'll lose one player and they think it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Whereas Jace McCartney and Craig Cameron, they've lost... heaps, but they just keep going. They go, okay, what's out, what's in, what do we got to do? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And if they're in contract, we'll trade them. And I think they've traded a couple of players, when they've 7 years up with 1 year to free agency. So Giants have done it really well, I feel, and they're unemotional.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really random. In the news this week, Andrew Dillon came out and said potential for the AFL to go into the Olympics. Did you read that?
Yeah, I saw that.
What were your thoughts on that? First thoughts?
Well, I thought we'd win the gold medal.
Oh, you'd hope so.
I thought bank that down as one. I got asked that question. There are a lot of countries that play AFL.
Yeah.
I think we'd be favourites.
Oh, God. You'd bloody hope
And I
so.
think they'd be bloody keen to play. Why not? It's like, when is it, 2032? If he's still here in 7 years' time, you'll go, oh, well,
Because when I hear you say the word mature, we're not mature enough yet. If that's being talked about, how are we not mature enough to add other elements that already exist in other codes? I probably sit on more your side around, I don't think you can trade players without them choosing where they want to go. But how can we be potentially talking about the Olympics, but
it's utopia, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's just is it a throw? It's not a total throwaway, but it's like, I think he's probably just sick of Peter V'landys flexing and saying, instead of him saying it, we're saying it. And when Peter copies, he'll go, well, we said it first. Who knows? We have got a great game, though. We're really we're blessed. It is, and I agree with you. We're the number one game in town, like in Australia.
100%.
Yeah.
For sure. We're going to get back to more your day-to-day shortly because we've got millions of burning questions for you. But we're actually interested to go back to the start for you.
Yep.
We're talking about Ricky Nixon before and that was kind of your tutelage, and we're interested to kind of hear your starts in this whole industry that's now, like we said, we've touched on the doco, it's evolved, it's you guys are the rock stars now, but we're interested to go back before when it was a bit more off Broadway.
Well, to go back, I was an accountant. I always say I'm an accountant by trade, which has held me in great stead. And I was great friends with Scott McGuinness and Andrew Gowers, who's now the president of Hawthorn. Andy and I played in under-12s and under-19 premierships together. And Scott McGuinness and I were just great friends as well. And they got me down, which is weird now, to raise money for their footy trip, for Hawthorn's footy trip. So we had a huge party on Glenferrie Oval called the Mad Hatters Party. It was unbelievable. And that was the day of John Platt was about, and some big Dermy, Dunstall, and then these young bucks coming through: Crawford, Mark Graham, Walt Disney, Raiden Tallis. Some really good characters coming through, and they were great. And we had an amazing party. I actually went on their footy trip to the Gold Coast. That was for 4 days, and I went for 2. Did all right too, and
Did all right.
Yeah, did all right. No, just meaning keeping up with them, and they'd wrestle and they'd have it was good fun, but it just couldn't happen now. It's just absurd to think that they A, were raising money for a footy trip, and B, that they had someone there helping them raise money. So, but I became friends with Jason Dunstall, who recommended me to Ricky Nixon. And I started working for Ricky in 1996. He had a big part. He was actually organising a party with Craig Kelly down at the Docklands. To suffice to say, it was a dud. Not my fault, but we were mortified afterwards. It was a loss, and it was down the Docklands, worst venue after the pre-season, grand final of when they had them. And anyway, I worked for Ricky for 3 years, and September 6, 1999 was a Friday, and I was just saying off air that, I got marched out of the office. Well, I resigned and then marched out. And, it was a bit of Jerry Maguire-like stuff then with the goldfish and a few tears from the staff, and then it was on. Yeah.
Well, from what we've heard, that period of time, though, as, probably give Ricky plenty of credit. I know you do, based on how he's changed the marketability of players' rights.
I've said that a lot.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, Ricky was top of the game. We had Club 10. We met at a building just around the corner on Kings Way, and you had Jason Dunstall there, Tony Lockett, Modra, Jakovic flew in, Wayne Carey, Gary Ablett.
There's a classic photo.
I was there that day. So that photo is iconic in my mind.
So for those listening, it's Lockett, Dunstall, Ablett, Carey.
I reckon I picked up Gaz from KFC on the Gaz drive-in over the Westgate. park at KFC. I'd pick him up and drive him into town.
So what was this deal for
That
as
was
an example?
Foxtel.
Okay.
So we had Ricky did a deal with Foxtel. It was a really good deal, and became really close to Foxtel. We did footy clinics with all the big names. It was unbelievable. He did a lot of, big things like they were.
And was like commercialisation of players, was that a thing back then? Like,
It was just starting.
Okay.
And Ricky's idea to do Club 10, and then the AFL came out and said stuff that we're going to do Pro Squad.
Yep.
So it was a whole, the AFL took Ricky on. Then they went, we'll beat you at your own game. We'll have Pro Squad. Jeff Brown was like the head lawyer for the AFL at the time. And
just to clarify,
Craig Kelly's business built on the back of, opposition to this.
yeah. So just to clarify for the listeners, so Club 10,
It was the group marketing rights of the 10 best
okay.
players, like in Ricky's mind, the 10 best players.
How did he get those 10 to kind
Well,
of...
he got agents. So, Tony Lockett had this guy, Rob Hession, as his manager. Glenn Jakovich had his own manager. Like a lot of them had their own individual
Gotcha.
agent. And then Ricky managed probably half of them for everything.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was a huge meeting at... those 4 were all managed by Ricky.
Yep.
But yeah, I'll lock it. Yeah, sort of a bit of both. But it was big, big, huge actually.
So you go out
Crown
on your
Casino. We launched Club 10 at Crown Casino.
massive.
Yeah,
You get March out of the office, as you said, but you go on your own venture, starting a business, which is in a very competitive industry.
I wasn't as much
Wasn't it?
then. I
Okay.
had no idea what I was doing. I think I've said my business. My marketing plan was 10 names on a napkin and 4 came with me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, I wasn't that strategic.
What are the conversations like though? If you're going out on your own, you've been looking after 10 guys for Ricky.
Yeah.
You now are going on your own. You've
Yeah.
got your personal relationships with these 10 blokes.
Yeah.
Like, is Ricky buzzing you going, mate, get your hands off, Matty Scarlett, who I know, you kept.
Well, Matty Scarlett, he did. He'd go meet Matty Scarlett. Matty Scarlett's the most loyal bloke in the world. He's an instrument. He just didn't click with Ricky. I thought he might stay and another one of his mates might, come with us. But that was like Trent Crode. He came with me and so did Adam Goods and Chris Tarrant couldn't at the start because he was one who did have a contract. But yeah, I was lucky that, 20 or so ended up coming with me.
But then they're all, they're all contracted.
Yep.
So you're not earning any commission based on those contracts that are
No, like it was a very tough start. My former wife at the time, but I left September 6, 1999. Charlie, who's now 26, was born October that year. We sold our house. We didn't make any money. And I remember, again, a meeting around the corner with a guy called Andrew Neofutu, who's been a great mentor over the time, but he was at Ricky's as their, he was like their chief operating officer, lawyer. And he came and said, Paul, can you pay some money? And I had sold the house. I'd paid money to their lawyer's trust account that somehow they just didn't know. But yeah, it was a pretty lean few years, that's for sure. I had a house in Seddon. Wish I still kept that. It'd be worth a bomb. But, all things just happen for a reason.
So at that time, could you see the path that was going to, maybe not to the extent it is today,
No.
but were all players under management? When did you start actually going and seeing a kid in the draft or about to be or 16, 17 and start having conversations with them? When does that start?
They were like, it wasn't what it is today.
Yeah.
Do you mean? Because another thing that I'm not sure when John Turnbull started with me, but the draft that helped set the business up was which we dubbed the Superdraft. So I was lucky enough to sign Luke Hodge at pick 1, Luke Ball at 2, Judd at 3, Pollack at 4, Bartel at 8. I think Bartel was. So that sort of set the business up. Then a bit later, John Turnbull, I set that photo up, and it was just down in Port Melbourne.
Really?
Yeah, it's around the corner.
I love that first photo, Sammy. The running. The running. Yeah, it's one of the classics.
Yeah. So I remember the day like it was yesterday,
Yeah.
And now they're married with kids and crazy. Yeah.
Do you remember? So,
Confident
do you
well.
remember going and having a chat to all those guys? As an
Oh.
example, how early?
Luke Hodge is a great example. I would
Yeah.
have driven down the freeway to Colac 6 times. Luke Ball's dad came with me one night. So I had Luke early. He was a Xavier boy. Luke was an unbelievable cricketer, so I watched him play cricket a lot. What made him, he's 6 to bring up a ton against Skevs at St. Kevin's, so I can't even remember that. Chris Judd, and so Luke Hodge, Leanne and Bryson, the parents. It's quite funny how we forecast now, and Luke's brother, who would have been, I don't know how old Dylan would have been there, but he's now one of the leading agents going around.
Crazy.
Whereas Chris Judd, Steve Green was a great friend of Chris's, and they've got Jagged together. And it's always important to acknowledge Steve Green's role in the business and how important he was to get Chris Judd. Chris Judd was just, and I still say, probably the best person I've ever managed.
Do you remember how do you pitch
Juddy
to a young...
Juddy had Flying Start at the time, Todd
Okay.
Vining and others writing to him. Juddy was just a star, really well organised. His mum and dad were rippers.
He was smart, wasn't he, too?
He's highly intelligent.
Yeah.
He is now,
Still is.
was then, was always capable. So his mum, Louie, as we call her, she never mollycoddled him like I think compared to me, and us. We just mollycoddle our sons and kids so much. Whereas he knew how to cook. He was cooking a pasta, he was cooking these olives in there, and this is at 18. I'm
Olives?
Like, I'm like, you're very capable. He'd be very good. He could go into Freddy's in Chapel Street and
We'll get to that.
He's knocking them all out.
He could make a pasta, Chris Judd. Chris Judd would have olives in it. He'd be beautiful.
So, let's say Dos is...
What a great restaurant Freddy's in
Yeah,
Chapel
definitely.
Street.
We're going to even taste a bit of Freddy's later on. But let's say Dos is the highest touted 17-year-old in the country.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That was
It's too late. It's too late now.
He
He's
was,
signed.
but he's bad knees.
Yeah.
Bad knees. It cost him. Anyway, but
Osgood Slatters, they call it.
he's the highest touted
I know Osgood
17-year-old.
Yeah.
How do you go... What's your method
Can you
to...
change that to 12?
12, all right. He's 12. He's the highest touted...
No, we've got rules and regulations. I was just having fun. But at 17, they've basically, at year 11, they've got, most of them have got agents.
So when... All right, let's say...
Jeez.
Or
Wow.
top age year.
Yeah.
A lot of the top age year are year 12s. They've all got agents. And then half the year 11s have got agents. So we're looking at the under 16s championships, which is happening in July in Gold Coast. And that's where that's the important week for for us.
So do you have a number as a business of how many 16-year-olds you guys want?
We think we're pretty good at that. We don't go after everyone.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And we've got, and it is hard. You've got to go. You've got to look at them in under 16s, and then you've got to forecast they're going to be good. And the game changes. The draft changed this year. It's evolving fast, and the clubs are onto that pace, agility, power have all become more important than some other aspects of type. So we're trying to move with the times there as well.
Because I guess what I'm trying to ask is, what makes a person, do you feel, make a decision to sign with you? But if they're highly touted and they're talking to a lot of managers, is it the personal connection you have? Is it the family connection?
It's a bit of everything. Okay. It's a mixture of everything. Yeah. And we'd like to think that we've got the experience, that we have got youth as well, and we love what we love what we do. Our office is a great environment, and we think also just our whole team. So sometimes it's you hear about Robbie and Nick, but behind the scenes, if you walk into our office, you'll walk straight in and there'll be the girls, Izzy Hardwick and Georgie Gardner and Ruby Richardson and others who are making a real impact, and they complement what we all do.
So you work so hard to, say, attain these players. What about when later on in their career they want to change? It is well known, in the industry, players do change managers.
Yeah.
For you guys, you had Petrarca, you had Jamara. They've recently switched over. How is that experience? Is it a difficult one to take because you've spent so much time?
Well, some are and some aren't. We're really proud, and I'm really proud of Robbie and how he's managed Jamara, and we're barracking for Jamara. We're really excited and hopeful for what he's done, and we feel really good about how we stuck strong with Jamara last year, and now he's in the right place, and we're really comfortable with him moving on. Christian was a bit different, but that just happens in business. Overall, touch wood, we'd think that 99, we don't lose many players over the journey, and we work really hard to make sure that happens.
Are those like sit down chats? Like the player will say to you, "Hey, can we get a coffee?"
Yeah. But it doesn't happen regularly. So we'd like to think that we're proactive and we're talking to players and saying, "Hey, you might be thinking this, or you want more marketing opportunities. Okay, well, let's sit down and work through that."
Yeah.
We work really hard. We have a Father's Day lunch. We have a Mother's Day lunch with all our mums, and we think it's one of the best. We work bloody hard.
You mentioned marketability, because that's almost the bigger part of the industry now, isn't it? Like, what percentages do you take from, say, the contracts just for their playing contracts versus, say, marketing opportunities?
4% is the standard AFL player contract, but again, they don't. You sign them at 16, they're not paying for 3 years nearly, so it's a long lead in, especially if they don't make it. So there's a lot of work done early for not ridiculous amount of rewards. So the barriers to entry, even if you guys were wanting to get into player management, I'd say, the barriers to entry are hard. The marketing, and it all varies. Yes, the standard inverted commas is 20%, but if we help someone secure a car, we're not taking 20% of we're not taking the tyre or
Do you see players like as a threat to your industry at all in terms of going down the self-management path?
I don't think so, because there might be less than 1%.
Yeah.
I would say doing contracts and negotiating is really difficult. And I remember I managed Simon Beaumont. He's a great person, and I managed Fev, and so Fev and Simon lived together for a while. And I remember Simon coming across. His dad said, he's great. Dad was a great man. I'm trying to think who he was. I think it was Cole Kinnear, and Cole Kinnear sort of shook his hand and said, "It's great doing business with you." And I think the dad realised, he said, "Yeah, I think it's time." You know what I mean? Time to switch, because you got to fit so many. You got to know your stuff, and you got to know. That's where our experience, I think, stands out.
Now, I love my coffee, but how many coffees are you drinking a day? Because you're doing a lot of meetings, I'm sure. So one thing we're really keen to know is what the day-to-day looks like. And I know you've got people working for you now, so it's kind of spread out, and you've got quite a really big team. But for yourself, maybe, say, early days, what are you doing every single day as a player agent?
Oh, look, the great thing about the job is that it just changes day to day. Do you know what I mean? So one day we could be in here talking to you. The next, we're having, walking around the tan with a list manager, or clubs are coming in. I've got Luke Trainer from Richmond coming in today to have lunch. Next Friday, Jason McCartney's flying down early to talk about a few of our boys. So it's always different. And that's the great thing. You know what I mean? And everyone's different. So the great thing about our job is just that no individual's the same. So that's what we love. I'm, heavily involved with Old Severians Footy Club, which sort of is my midlife crisis, for want of a better word. But, that keeps me sane as well. So, tomorrow night I've got training. We've got 100 kids in our program, we call it. I love players playing sport, and it's really good.
So, I mean, it backs onto Doss's point here. So the documentary showed just so many great aspects of relationships you're building with players. But I think, too, something that was really interesting is the relationships you have to keep, like you said, with list managers. And, like, it's not uncommon in 1 year you're trying to grab a player from their club that they don't want to lose, but you're also working for them to get a player that they want. How do you balance this?
Well, I said that exact same conversation yesterday, because we were talking about Carlton Richmond, and Robbie goes, "I'm going to the president's lunch dinner." I said, "Whose home game is it?" He goes, "Carlton." I said, "Didn't you just take Curnow and De Koning out of there, mate?" And he goes, "Yeah, but I got Jagger, and I did give him Hayward and Ainsworth." And so I was giggling, and Robbie's a big Carlton man, so so it's really interesting, isn't it? And one of my great relationships is with Craig Cameron from Gold Coast, and we have robust discussions. Craig's passionate; he's one of the best in the business, but deep down, we've got a profound relationship built on trust and years of friendship that we can have an argument. And it's same with Robbie and I. Like, we were on the phone today, and we're business partners and great friends, but robust conversations are important. And we talk about having the uncomfortable conversation. So it's being comfortable having the uncomfortable conversation.
Has it ever dragged on for an extended period of time, or like with?
I think
not
with
Robbie,
some clubs, no, not with Robbie. Shit, no. But with clubs, yes, but not too bad.
So what's it like if I'm just going to throw a random club? Let's say it's Hawthorn. Hawthorn are in your bad books.
Yeah.
Or you're in their bad books, I should say.
I just go sit with silent though.
Yeah.
We don't.
So
we
you
don't
just
like
give
to
them a bit of space.
We don't like to tell them. We'll just go. You got 5-year penalty. We don't like to tell them. We just silently, we silently go out about our business.
Okay, let's just get a bit of space. Nice.
Is that an actual? I don't want to say burnt bridges, but is that?
I can't remember too many. I always laugh. Even the Trent Crowe trade. I was. You're supposed to be on the right side of, the club. This year it was really interesting, or the past couple of years, I've been interested that I've been fighting, or we have been fighting with the club that we're trading the player to as much as the other side. So you just think that's weird. So you're arguing, but hang on, we're trying to. So sometimes you're trying to get them to trade more. And I was like, is that their fault? And then it was about 3 or 4. I'm like, shivers. Could be us, not them.
How much has it helped having future picks to be able to play with too?
Well, yes, but then what's happened is with the future, definitely the future picks have helped, right? Because we talked about Luke Ball earlier. He would not have not been traded if we had future picks. Okay, there's no doubt. And I'll go back for Carlton. Chris Judd would have got to Carlton. Josh Kennedy would have stayed at Carlton if they had future picks. Now, instead he went to West Coast and became a pretty bloody good player for West Coast. It's catch-22. Yes, it's better, but it's also, I feel like they're inflating some of the values of players. I'd hate to see, if Zach Butters, who's out of contract now, happens to go through because he's free agent, it'll be really interesting with the free agency and the matching of free agency. So with these extra draft picks, that'll be my concern and looking at that for the future.
Can you actually maybe explain to people what free agency and non-free agent means? Because I feel like Zach
free
Butters is a great
agent
example.
at the moment. I think Zach Butters is just for an example. So is Ben King. They're restricted free agents, and so was Tom Lynch at Gold Coast. Then Gold Coast were able to get pick 2, and they didn't match, and it went on. It's just like Oscar Allen. And what happens is, there's no doubt West Coast were so happy to let Oscar Allen go. You talk about getting people to do interviews. They were very comfortable to get picked 2. Then they get Cooper Duff Tyler. They're rebuilding. It was perfect. So, but what will happen with all these ability to get extra picks? I feel that the matching of after 8 years is going to be stronger. So I think we've got to look at it. I feel like as an industry we should try and embrace the free agents that come in at 6 years and at 6 years. Even early, because I think that will open it up for clubs down the bottom for more people to go there than just the clubs up the top. Because if you're moving just after 8 years, you're going, is North or West Coast going to be any good? 6 years, you're going, I can see a huge future for West Coast.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about robust conversations, but I suppose picking up the phone and ringing a club and saying, hey, we've got this absolute gun player that actually wants to come to your club. What are those conversations like when it's...
they're wonderful.
Yeah.
Or not wonderful, they're good. I mean, we were just talking about part of the day, the job yesterday or this past week. I'll tell you what, the AFL is doing really well. It's never been harder to be drafted, but there's never been more opportunities for players who miss. So we had a FaceTime. Julian Petracca manages young Tom Burton, who missed the draft. He was captain of Vic Metro, been training really well at Richmond. Did a FaceTime, and I don't know if you've seen over socials, but he was bawling. But he was still bawling when he was on the phone to Jules, and I was in the background saying, well done. But, Tom Blamiers, who played at Frankston, he's ended up at North Melbourne, played for North Melbourne on the weekend. He's working at Collingwood. So on Monday, goes and empties his desk and playing against North Melbourne on the day. They're special moments, for us. Flynn Perez used to play at North Melbourne, goes to Adelaide, matures as a player, gets to Hawthorn, and gets picked. They're really special to me. I love those stories.
Last year, reading there was 58 players paid more than $1 million,
Yep.
which is double what it was the year before.
Yep.
Where do you see it next year?
I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if that's inflated.
Yeah.
The one thing that annoys me about the lists that come out is when we as managers do the right thing by clubs and front end our players, and then somehow that gets reported. Nothing annoys me more when someone says, "Oh, he's on 1.4," but no, it's like back ended. No, but you needed to move money and push that back. And so in the last year of contract, for example, Nick Haynes was on more money than $1 million. Well, it was only because he was doing the right thing by the club and getting less for the last 4 years. So I'm all about more money for the players. So, and I think they deserve it. I think our game's healthy. I think you're going to see that over the next month or two with the crowds that we're going to get. Gather round, state of origin. I think the game's so healthy. It can sustain these good wages.
What is your take on the whole wages thing? So, like, hearing you say that, is there a snitch, or is there someone inside a club that might have a bit of an inside? They share it with someone else, it gets shared. Like, do you think player wages should be publicly known?
I'm against Kane Corns here. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I think there's enough, and they'll say, "Oh, there's just speculation." Oh, I'm comfortable. It's like my wage not disclosed, and the executive at Westpac's wage not disclosed. I'd rather, we do our job. We don't need, and it's all complicated too. You'll say he's on that, but what about his bonuses? What about his games? I don't know how they report it either. So I think there's going to be more speculation. Why is he on that? Well, that's because of this. And so I'd just rather, it hasn't been that bad so far. So it's not something I'd be giving up easy if I was the Players Association.
In going back inside your four walls again, one of my favourite parts of the first doco, I think it was the first doco, was Robbie, and I think it was Luke Dunstan. He was on the phone to Stuart Dew, and he's almost selling.
Yeah.
And they're standing next together, and he's kind of writing down what to say, and it was a really great insight.
Yeah.
I assume that would have been midway through the season, or maybe towards the back end. I don't know.
It was towards the back end.
All right, towards the back
no
end.
doubt, because a lot of it, there's just time, because players like that, you need to just wait.
Yep.
So sometimes this whole thing, you can have, because what happens is clubs are now like, oh, we want Ben King, we want Zach Butters, we want Nick Daicos, we want, Paddy Dangerfield, whoever. They want the big names. But then as the season goes and it's even towards it, and we've learned there is a lot of time before the end of the season, because don't forget there's 8 clubs already out. Then a week later there's 10 out. So there's a lot of time from there to October 15 when the trade period finishes.
But is there a sense of, in that case, urgency where, he states in the documentary he wants to leave the Saints. He's done with the Saints. And
we knew he wanted to leave the Saints early. But it was just a matter of, hey, Lukey, it's not that easy. Okay,
Yeah.
let's just we'll do our best. And then
So what's it like when you have to really because that seemed like an actual pitch. Like the way Robbie's saying is, hey, you're going to play inside mid, Dewey Gold Coast. He's going to be good for you. But what's that like when you're selling?
Oh, well, it's what we do. It's what we're paid for, and what's what we think we're good at is helping our players stay in jobs. It's got to be number one priority. How do we keep it? CJ's got a year to go at Hawthorn. Keep him in the job. We now take him to Melbourne Footy Club.
And are Hawthorn pretty open? Because, they probably don't know, but when will Hawthorn indicate early-ish in the season saying, look, we don't think there's going to be a contract?
We were like dancing with your sister. I know what they're thinking. I know he's on some all right money. I know they'd be okay for him to move, but they love him as a person. They're okay to keep him. I've got to make sure I've got a home for him before I go to him.
You have to make a business decision that we got to get him longer.
And that's tough to do. It's not easy to be traded. We see the trades, but the ones you don't see, there's 50 trades or players. I always say, if your name's talked about at trade period, get excited.
Yeah.
Because I've got a lot of players who'd like to be talked about, and they're not.
Yeah.
Some players, and you go, how did he not get traded? How did he? And they leave the system, and you shake your head.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the come home factor for players. The player gets drafted to West Coast. I say Harley Reid as an example. He's a great example. He's probably the hottest player behind Nick Daicos, youngster wise. There's a lot of talk of him, maybe wanting to come back home.
Yeah, there was, wasn't
There
there?
was.
Yeah.
Whereas now he seems settled.
Yep.
How does a club...
Looks fit, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks great. How does a club in that 2-year or 3-year period able to maybe change his mind or
I don't think they changed his mind. I think Minnie McWalter was really big in terms of how they bonded and Harley seeing a future. And that was just Nick Geeshan from our office having great conversations with Harley, having chats to his uncle Steve, who's really close to Harley, and just working through it and taking his time. So, they weren't. And he just feels there. It's definitely the right move for Harley. And we're really proud of Harley for committing and making the move to stay for the next few years and taking the heat out of it. Felt like he was talked about, whether it was in Perth. He was on the paper that many times.
Yeah, what's the pressure like there?
They're insane.
Yeah.
And we've sort of been through it. We had Chris Judd, we had Nick Natanui. I felt like Harley even took it to an extra, step. They love their footy over in Perth.
It's crazy.
It seems, listening to you talk over the years, that you really do favour, if you can, keeping the player at the club that they're actually at rather than forcing the trade. Is that loyalty, is that important to you in just terms of your values? Is that?
I think so. I think it's glad you said it. I think it'd be one thing that we talk about and we stand firm of, that where possible, we don't, if a guy's happy, this is another one, we know we don't need, and some are because they have to, because they don't have the experience, but we think if a player wants to stay at a club, we don't need to go shop him to 5 clubs to work out what he's worth. Having said that, we can't also stop a club just trying to send an offer to a player. It's not our fault. If right now some player's saying, we really want Harley Reid, and they're offering an offer to Nick Geeshan, it's like, well, Nick can't stop that. But overall, over a long period of time, we felt like we don't move players for the sake of moving them. We move them for opportunity. And that's the number one. If I said, why do players move? Players are ridiculously loyal. I've said it forever and continue to say it. We're very lucky in this. I think the game's lucky, but the players are tremendously loyal to their clubs.
Is that the first point of call? So just the reverse factor. Let's say there's a club in Melbourne that actually are interested in Harley. I'm sure they're all interested, but let's say, do they ring the managers first and say, can you have a word to Harley? Like, what's that?
They would, but we're also, where we feel we're good is that we're really strong and saying, no, he's really happy. So, I just can't see him moving.
Okay.
But
so you could shut that
it'd be
down.
like Tassie coming in now. It's like we can't stop them, but we can advise saying, he's really happy. But, I said that with Callum Ward. Like, Callum Ward was a western suburbs boy, went to school in Williamstown. I remember the meeting, but that was just complicated. The salary cap, the TPPs were coming up. There were some strange clauses there, and I didn't think he'd move, but just sometimes things happen.
You didn't think he would leave?
Oh, not at the time. Not if, let's
Sorry, my
say...
Western Bulldog
I was about
Nuffy
to
is
say,
coming
Josh
out.
would have been
well-
wrapped with him to stay.
No, and I won't get into the whole nitty-gritty
Sorry.
of it, but I didn't think he'd leave.
Yeah.
No, well, he was a local boy, but they just left the jar open for him. You should be smiling. You should wake up every day and smile because you've got Sam Darcy at your club.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, Tassie might be coming hard for that young man, I reckon.
They should.
So,
A couple of my Nuffy Saints mates are worried about
You a
the
Saints
Rewald
fan?
boys. My mates are Saints. Yeah.
he's a Saints man.
Yeah, sort of. Anyway, just before we kind
That's
of...
why you got Fraser on.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Before we kind of move totally through the pod and into the next segment,
Into the fun stuff.
I'm just interested. You talk about your accounting background.
Yep.
How are players going nowadays, and where do you guys get involved with their personal finances? So, and how do you advise them?
Well, we've got stock. You'd like to think that over a journey we've got great stockbroking firm that helps us. We've got accounting firm. We've got mortgage broker who's been in the game for 20 years, Chris Court. We think we're really well placed in that area.
Yep.
We can't give financial advice, even though I'm an accountant, but we can set up, budgets and structures that Izzy Hardwick works really hard at the office to help me with the players on that sort of stuff.
Is there a rule of thumb? Is it do you like? And I know you can't give advice, but is it more along the lines of we advise you to look after your house first, or
there is, and or just minimise mistakes.
okay,
And also don't. we prefer them not to just get all the money paid into their FPOS account and they see $26,000 there and their mates are looking over their shoulder saying it's your shout. So we try and set up some structures that help there that we think we do it well.
It's maybe share a little bit about the famous Connors. What do they call it? Is it the I heard you talk about it. Is
the pre-season?
No. Oh yeah, like the lunches. When you get together with the players and the player gets to choose where they want to eat dinner, and it might be like I heard you talk about Marley Williams and the Squires Loft. I had a good giggle at that, and then another player chose an RSL. Every player is different.
It was Jace Saddington, I think, chose that. Yeah, so. I think Jace Saddington's dinner cost me $11.50, and Adam Goods and Craig Bolton were mortified. It was a good feed though. We do have a bit of a go-to Squires Loft. It's hard to go wrong there, isn't it? In Sydney, the boys like Toddy's. Toddy's in Sydney. You don't know it?
No.
It's in Lawn as well.
Okay.
Do yourself a favour. It's very good.
I was going to ask as well. So you give a player an allowance? Is that the kind of?
Well, yeah, we try the young guys, and just set up some good habits early so that we want to teach them. It's their money; they've got to be responsible. I mean, there's a lot going on for young kids at this day and age,
and little things add up.
They add up. If you can minimize, we see it. We had one player from Carlton came in the office today, and he was a 9 out of 10. Do you know what I mean? And there's others who struggle. And we just try and help and say you're not in this game forever. And and a lot of them, at age 22, I wouldn't have even known what superannuation is. So these kids are pretty good overall. They come in. I think they come out of the system better than they leave. They come in.
Final question from me. I'm interested when a player makes a mistake, and whenever over the weekend. There's footage going around and you guys get wind of it. How do you protect the player? How do you deal with it when there's going to be a media storm coming?
I think overall try and be honest and get on the front foot. And
to the club, you mean, or to the public?
Yeah, definitely tell the club.
Okay.
Get on the front foot with the club. Get on the front foot, with the media. Be honest. And then just, we think we're pretty good and we've got some experience in crisis management.
Have you had players come to you and say, hey, I think I've mucked up. I think there could be. They come forward to you and say, "Hey, I'm a bit worried about something."
Yep.
And then your front foot's the best.
Front foot's the best. 9 times out of 10, the front foot's the best policy.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Should we jump in?
Let's do it. It's time for On the Spot, Dos, with our.
So On the Spot is brought to you by CoinSpot, the easiest place to buy and sell crypto. You can buy Bitcoin for as little as $1.
Yes, over 500 cryptocurrencies you can buy with CoinSpot, Australia's #1 crypto exchange.
Make sure you download that app.
Now, what we like to do with the On the Spot segment, Paul, is it's a bit of a play on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Yeah,
so what we're going to do is we're going to ask you one multiple choice question and we'd love the answer to it.
Oh, okay. Love multiple choice. It's
this is good. So which trade was the hardest to get done? Was it A, Charlie Curnow, B, Chris Judd, C, Bailey Smith, or D, Paddy Dangerfield?
Charlie Curnow, I reckon,
really?
overall. Yeah, even though I was one out, one back with that, Chris Judd was easier. Yeah.
Because from where we were sitting,
Bailey Smith was out of contract, so Chris Judd may be hard, but yeah.
How many clubs were shopping around for Juddy at the time?
Oh, so there were lots of clubs. 4. We got it down to 4.
4.
Yeah,
okay.
4.
Who were those?
Judd. I'll go Judd, even though it wasn't as hard as you think. Judd was the hardest. Can I change? It's allowed?
We can lock in
let's
B.
Let's lock in
B.
Juddy.
Yeah, Judd. Okay.
Do you mind sharing a bit more about that trade? Like that was massive. That was mega. Judd coming back to Carlton.
That'd get a chapter.
Yeah.
Oh, Juddy was really honest and like he no man like he honoured. I think Judd and Dangerfield both honoured their contracts to a T.
Yeah.
They just both wanted to come home. And I think Juddy did 6 years, Danger did 8, or was it? I think Juddy did 6, Danger did 8.
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
And both just wonderful humans, by the way. Juddy, Greg Swan did a great job. Melbourne didn't have a coach Essendon didn't have a coach at the time. Melbourne was in between facilities, so it was sort of awkward. He barracked for Melbourne, so he at least met with them. It was very hard to go to Essendon because they just didn't have a coach at the time. I think Matthew Knights was going there. I think they were really impressive, Carlton. They were really impressive. And Greg Swan, it was out of Collingwood. Juddy will deny, he had an inkling to go to Collingwood. Collingwood couldn't do the trade. Greg Swan is a person who gets things done, and we were keen to do business there.
It's interesting to hear, though, Collingwood couldn't get the deal done because it's still the biggest. So there was just no way. Like, if you got the biggest
future picks.
No, they didn't have.
Nice.
They didn't have the future picks.
Know.
Yeah,
so they just were gone early.
Yeah, they weren't prepared to trade enough, in my mind. So West Coast thought that we wanted to go to Collingwood. I knew we had to get at Carlton. I was just trying to get Juddy on that path, and it just took him a little bit of time. But he got there, and he was really happy with his decision.
Was the deadline kind of what it is today? I'm trying to remember back to that period.
Yeah, a bit.
There's a full deadline.
They got their.
Yeah.
They just got their ducks in the order. They gave their first pick. They gave another pick 20, and they gave Josh Kennedy. It was just like
it's one of the all-time win-wins. Really,
it was a win-win.
Hindsight,
yeah, Chris Maston, Tony Knott, and Josh Kennedy. It was in the end.
Wow. Yeah. And is it true that Gary Ablett Senior phoned you about that particular?
Yeah.
So what was his?
If Gary
vested
wants
interest?
you, he can get you. He just
Find your number.
he can get you anywhere. The Gaz. I remember him ringing me at home on my home number. I didn't even know the home number still existed.
On the home number.
Yeah, that was once. There was another story about Josh Carr tagging Gary Ablett Jr.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Oh, no.
that's for a whole different day. And he just wanted me to just give me a little bit of word of warning about Carlton. And
But why?
well, he wasn't far. Like they weren't. Carlton and Essendon have had a tough 20 years, to be fair, haven't they?
Yeah.
I don't know why. He just felt passionately about it. He loved Juddy.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's not like Geelong was in the mix.
Yeah, that's
No,
it's
it
like
wasn't.
Geelong,
No,
nothing to
so
do
he
with Gary
wasn't
Ablett
being
Jr.
biased saying get to Geelong. No.
Oh, well, mate, thank you so much we've locked in B, Chris Judd, and we
Chris
appreciate
Judd.
you taking part of, and coin spot on the spot, but we have some presents for Paul for coming on the potty.
We
Dos.
do. So first, we'll bring in Milkman,
Jared's going to have to sub in.
Come on, Jared. Let's bring in Milkman. So Milkman, Paul, leading the way for everything male grooming. Oh, he's getting a handshake as well. That's official. I like it. First, you've got the toiletry bag, which is always nice to
I
travel
was
with.
just about to buy one.
No need. You've got the cologne, a bit of aftershave.
Well, I need that because I've lost my current cologne.
Okay,
I don't
set
know
that
where
in the
it
glove
is.
box.
Wow.
And then there might be some natural deodorant in there, some other stuff, but we'll fill it up later.
Got deodorant, but
There you go.
I never can have enough deodorant.
Head to milkmanaustralia.com.
Thanks,
Use the code
Milkman.
dos&d, 20% off at checkout.
Yeah, we highly recommend that. I think that'll look good at Sorrento for you.
Very happy.
Yeah.
Very excited here.
Now the next one,
Very excited.
We'll get that one at the end. Bring out the GCO. So we're about to go do the golf clearance outlet chipping challenge. Now they're giving you some balls courtesy before we do the chipping challenge.
Well, I did tell you I played in the Pro-Am at Portsea with the golf clearance
warmed up.
boys.
Hopefully you didn't lose too many.
No, they gave me one. Very, very happy with the clearance
But you're
shot.
about to play for a much bigger prize. So we're going to see your chipping skills.
Shivers.
Next we'll bring out
I'm
Tommy's.
nervous already.
So here we go. This is Tommy's. The boys from Tommy's are in the house today. Now this is their spritz. We got some fruity flavors there. We got the mandarin, the lemon,
The raspberry in there as well.
Raspberry spritz.
Yeah, these are beautiful.
They go down an
mate.
absolute treat. Actually, Dwayne Russell came in a couple of weeks ago. He cracked one live on air, which is very funny. Yeah, it was
Yeah, it's
hilarious.
about 9:30 in the morning too. But mate, they're doing great things. We say big thank you to the Tommy's boys.
Well done, Tommy's.
And now we're very excited for this.
Oh.
Here we go.
So Freddie's Pizzeria, which you know
Which I know very well.
Chapel Street in
Chapel Street.
Windsor.
Yeah.
This is Dan the man from Freddie's.
I'm so excited.
And this is a nice little nibbler treat. It's a potato mushroom pizza that you
Wow.
can take home with you today.
So Spud Regis, Dan?
is this
Spud Regis.
Spud?
This is a Spud Regis.
Well, I love Danny and yeah.
We love that.
One bite. It's a bit like one bite. You know the rules.
We had one bite, so
So dinner 7 days a week. Lunch on the weekends
crack it
at
on
Freddie's.
the
Bring your
pink
family, friends. It's a
my
great
God.
vibe, great
amazing.
atmosphere. See, Paul loves it.
it looks beautiful. It's making me hungry.
My kids love Freddie's. We go.
Think classic wood fire pizza. Really, really nice.
Oh.
handmade pasta as well.
I reckon my son Archie took his girlfriend there last week, So, oh my gosh.
Well, we must know someone because it's hard to get. You got to book in now, guys. Yeah, you got to book in. But tell you what, we had a celebrity chef sit in your seat once upon a time, Paul. When he gave us this bit of advice. He said, if I take one bite, I can fake it if I like it, but if I go for a second, it means it's good. So you've gone for a second.
I've had about 4. So what's that say?
Sammy, you grab that off. Grab that off, Paul. There you go.
But it's just our way, mate. We've got a few other little goodies that we'll give you off there in the dos&d tote bag. But Paul, mate, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It's such an exciting time of the year. We've loved hearing your story and what you're doing. You're the biggest and the best, mate, and congratulations on all you're doing.
Thanks so much for having us. You're doing a great job. My kids did say I had to come on this show. So
good on them.
They said, do yourself a favour and jump
Thanks,
on.
Paul.
Shout out to Nick Stone too. That was a very good podcast.
Now, how are you feeling about having a golf swing now?
I'm very
ready to play for a big prize.
Well, he's fueled up.
Let's do it.
All right, I've moved from the hot seat, Paul. You're now ready. You're warmed up. You're fueled. You've had your pizza, and you're ready to take on the GCO, the Golf Clearance Outlet Chipping Challenge.
Can't wait.
The leaderboard, top of the tree at the moment, Pete Hooley on 300. Yeah. In 6 months' time, if you're at the top of the tree, if you beat that, you're going into GCO, you're going on a shopping spree, $500, anything you like, run through the store. golfclearanceoutlet.com.au. Find them there.
Love the golf clearance.
9 stores.
9?
Everywhere.
Wow.
So how are you feeling, firstly?
I'm excited, nervous.
Yeah, you love your golf?
I love golf, yeah.
What do you play off? Yeah.
18.
Not bad, not bad.
Not good, but not bad.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay.
Come on. All
okay.
Right. Firstly, who do you reckon is winning the flag this year?
Gold Coast.
Oh.
Gold Coast.
Is it? Oh, wow. Wait. Is it 75 just for a lazy first shot there? Starting strong, Paul. Brownlow, who are you going with?
Nick Daicos.
Daicos, one of your boys. Daicos, 75 again. I reckon he's on track here. I'm feeling a little 100. Oh, 25.
75 guys.
Coleman medal.
Coleman. Ben King.
Ben King, another one of your boys. Yeah, I can see what he's doing. He's got the 100. What are we on now?
275, so there's 50 to go clubhouse leader.
275, 50 to become the clubhouse leader. This is pressure, Paul. I know you've dealt with pressure, but this is big. And he's hit a 75. So we've got a new leader, Paul Connors. 350 on top of the leaderboard. Looking forward to seeing if by the end of that 6 months you're staying on the top of the tree.
Jeez,
so
that was good,
thanks,
mate.
Paul.
Love it.
Awesome.